He made over £2 million playing darts. He faced legends. He reached major finals.
Brilliant start from Mervyn King, and he's finally realised his dream of a world fight.
He stood on world stages with the crowd roaring his name. But now, he's bankrupt, without a tour card, and might lose his home. And somehow, that's not the worst part. Because behind the fall of Mervyn King is a mistake so massive, it destroyed nearly everything he built. And if you're a young player dreaming of the big leagues, this is your warning. Mervyn King was one of the most recognisable names in darts. Born in Norfolk in the spring of 1966, he picked up his first dart at the age of 12. His father gave him a cardboard board with plastic wiring and told him to practice from regulation distance. By 14, he was hitting 9 darters in practice.
The dad went, right, it goes on this height, you stand there if you want to play this game. And within 12 months, I was playing Super League, County B, County A at 14.
At first, darts wasn't even his dream. He wanted to race cars, and he did. He won 2 of his first 3 gravel races in Suffolk, behind the wheel of a modified Alfa Romeo, but the costs were too much. His father worked in a factory. There wasn't enough money to chase speed, so King chose darts, and he made that choice count. He burst onto the professional scene in the 1990s, debuting at the World Masters in 1994. Over the next decade, he became a mainstay in the British darts organisation, reaching 12 major finals and winning 3 of them. His biggest BDO win came in 2004, when he finally lifted the World Masters trophy.
The shot is single 20, his favourite double 16, and it's all over. We have a champion. Double 8. Yes!
Brilliant start from Mervyn King, and he's finally realised.
That same year, he finished runner-up at the BDO World Championship for the second time. But King wasn't satisfied.
Reports in the newspaper suggesting that you were going to move to the rival darts body, the PDC. Robert Holmes says you are not going to go to the PDC. You'd rather give up darts rather than go to the PDC. So is that the answer we can take as being Mervyn King's response to this?
If that's what Robert Holmes has said, fine.
In 2007, he made the leap to the Professional Darts Corporation, a move that many feared would sink him, but it didn't. It lit a fire. He immediately climbed the PDC rankings, finishing his debut year ranked 25th in the world. He became PDC's Newcomer of the Year. Within 2 more seasons, he was in the top 10. Over the next 15 years, King would reach 7 PDC major finals, face legends like Phil Taylor and Michael Van Gerwen, and rack up a total of over £2 million in career prize money. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was a grinder, a survivor. And for 16 straight years, Mervyn King qualified for the World Championship at Alexandra Palace. He was one of the most respected players in the game until everything changed. For years, Mervyn King appeared untouchable. He wasn't winning every final, but he was always in the mix. He'd walk onto the stage to a chorus of boos or cheers. He never seemed to care. His throw was methodical, his nerve unshakable. But behind the scenes, he was unknowingly digging a hole so deep he would never recover. It wasn't gambling, it wasn't lavish spending, it was something far more common and far more devastating. King believed that the money he earned from darts, the prize money, was classed as winnings, like the National Lottery. In other words, he didn't think it was taxable, but it was. In the eyes of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, those payouts were not windfalls, they were earnings. And if you earn, you owe. But no one told him that. There was no system in place, no handbook, no orientation. He was left to figure it out on his own. And like many sports people who come from working class backgrounds, he didn't have a financial advisor, no accountant, no plan. He just kept playing. He'd win, collect his check, and move on to the next tournament. All the while, his tax liability quietly grew in the background, year after year, compounding into a mountain of debt. The problem became so big that King couldn't even look at it anymore. I buried my head in the sand, he would later admit. The scariest part? It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was 2 full decades of inaction. He didn't set out to cheat the system. He just didn't know how it worked. But tax law does not reward ignorance. By the time he realized the full extent of the problem, it was already too late. The damage was done. Letters from HMRC began piling up. The number they wanted back? Over £500,000. King had spent years battling the greatest players in the world, but now he was facing an opponent that didn't care about doubles, averages, or televised 9 darters. He was fighting the taxman, and the taxman doesn't miss. he throws 9 darters at your wallet. By early 2020, Mervyn King's career was already slowing down. His ranking had slipped, his form was dipping, and the tax letters, they were still coming. But nothing prepared him for what happened next. The COVID-19 pandemic brought the sporting world to a standstill. Tournaments were cancelled, crowds vanished. For many, it was just a pause. For Mervyn King, it was the moment everything collapsed. There were no stage lights, no matchday adrenaline, just silence and bills. So, he did what most wouldn't expect from a former world finalist. He applied for a job as a delivery driver. Every morning, he'd load up an Amazon van and begin his route, delivering up to 200 parcels a day, earning around £120 per shift. His legs ached, his back, which had already caused him issues on tour, got worse, but he kept going. Fans couldn't believe it. Why was a darts legend knocking on doors with boxes under his arms? To King, the answer was simple: survival. "I don't really think it's news, do you?" he said. "I mean, we're all just trying to make a living."
Has your attitude changed at all this year? Obviously, you've gone back to work this year.
Yes, I went back to work because we had no darts. So, and I'm not one to sit on my backside doing nothing, twiddling my thumbs. I get bored very easily. And there's only so much golf and only so much fishing you can do. So I said to Tracy, I'm going to go back to work. She went, "We're all right," and I said, "Yeah, we're fine. We're absolutely fine." I said, "But I am not going to sit on my backside doing nothing."
There was no ego, no bitterness. He wasn't embarrassed to be seen. If anything, he found some peace in the routine, but it didn't fix the larger problem. His debt wasn't going away. He knew it. They were trying everything. In between deliveries, he would talk to friends and try to make plans. At one point, he even started a small construction business with a mate, just to keep the wheels turning. But legally, his options were shrinking. The amount he owed meant he could no longer act as a company director. That door was closed too. And all the while, the taxman waited. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about time lost, time ignored, and the terrifying truth that maybe, just maybe, there was no way out. On the 5th of March, 2024, the weight that Mervyn King had been carrying for over 2 decades finally crushed him. The High Court of Justice in London ruled him officially bankrupt. The number he owed to HMRC, over £500,000. In a matter of moments, everything changed. His finances, his future, his freedom, all placed into the hands of the official receiver, the court-appointed authority now responsible for liquidating his assets and assessing what, if anything, he could keep. And the reality? He might lose his home. But it's not just the house they're worried about, it's their 3 large dogs, a Pyrenean mountain dog, a Newfoundland cross and a golden retriever. Those dogs are family, and finding a new place that can accommodate them, that's a whole different kind of fear. Still, in the middle of collapse, he showed something most wouldn't: honesty. He didn't run, he didn't hide. He contacted the authorities himself. He told them everything. "Whatever the official receiver wants to know, he can have," King said. "I just want to deal with this fairly." But fairness doesn't erase debt, and it certainly doesn't fix regret. What hurts most, and what keeps him up at night, is how preventable it all was. This wasn't a case of reckless spending or scandalous behaviour. It was a slow-motion train crash caused by a simple lack of financial awareness and the silence that followed. Now, with his PDC tour card expired, Mervyn King is left with just 2 ways to stay in the game: the Challenge Tour and the World Seniors Darts Championship. Smaller stages, smaller payouts, but they offer something more important than money: a chance to keep playing, to keep moving forward even with nothing left. And he's taking it. Because when everything else is gone, the titles, the income, the home, darts is still there. He says he's sharing his story for one reason: to warn others. To let young players know that ignorance isn't a shield. To remind rising stars that for every trophy and check, there's a form to file and a responsibility that comes with success. His message is simple: don't do what I did. Face it early. Fix it while you can. And if you're still thinking this is just one tragic exception, think again. Because Mervyn King isn't the only dart star whose life took a dark turn. Another former world champion fell even harder, but not because of money. Ted Hankey, once crowned the king of the lakeside, spiraled into something far worse than bankruptcy. And unlike King, his downfall wasn't preventable. It was disturbing, criminal, and utterly irreversible. Tap here to watch our next video on Ted Hankey, and see what happens when a darts legend crosses a line no one can come back from.